All each of you just for a couple of minutes, just so we can find out who you are, what you do, and it'll give the audience an indication, I suppose, of what we can learn from you about helping our business and driving the county forward. So, yourself, Joe.
Okay, my name is Joe English. I'm the manager of the local enterprise office in the County Council. And our job is to support pre-startup companies, early stage companies, and also companies in the growth phase. And our job is to give advice, support. We have some grants as well, and we have very much an open door policy. So anybody who is either thinking of going into business or is in business and is looking to grow or just needs some support or help, come and talk to us. Our door is always open.
Joe, scaling is always a challenge, isn't it? Because it's easy to go. It's fine operating a business with a sole operator or sole trader, maybe 1 or 2 employees. But is that challenge to get up to the even 8, 9, 10 employees?
Yeah, that is a huge jump for companies, because all of a sudden you're into dealing with an awful lot of new areas that you have never dealt with before. Having employees, how do you keep them happy? How do you keep them paid? Because as you go to grow, your actual funding may come a little bit after you get the people. So that phase between hiring somebody and having enough revenue to keep them going can be a real challenge, and we can help with that.
So the man with the grants, he's right here, right next to me, okay? So Siobhan, you're at the Mid-East Regional Skills Forum. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
Okay. So the Mid-East Regional Skills Forum is part of a larger network of regional skills fora, and we were established by the Department of Education and Skills just over 2 years ago. And the main idea of what we're attempting to do is to get the education and training providers in each region to work better with employers to meet skills needs. So the education and training providers in the Mid-East region, which I manage, is Maynooth University, as well as Kildare Wicklow Education and Training Board, Louth Mead Education and Training Board, and SkillNets. But as well as the education and training providers on the forum, we also have representatives from the county councils. So Joe sits on the forum representing the local enterprise office. We have Enterprise Ireland, IDA and IBEC, and employer representatives such as the construction industry.
So for example, the kind of skills that you can help companies skill up on or train up on.
That's right. What are they? So we're finding now for a lot of employers that they're looking to really upskill and reskill their own employees. So it could be anything from programs that are available to help general operatives level in manufacturing who may not have engaged in lifelong learning before, right up to any skills that an employer has. So an employer might want to link in, for example, with Maynooth University. Maybe they want to bring in a student on a student placement program. Maybe they're looking to do a piece of research and they're not quite sure how to link in with the university. Or maybe Kevin mentioned some of the announcements that have been made in the county recently, such as Facebook and Shires, and indeed a new studio. So as a forum, we look at what's happening in the region, what are the emerging skills, and what are the current skills.
So we know there's a lot of food companies out there, especially in County Meath. It seems to be the home of them at the moment. R&D's huge challenge as regards how much it costs. Yes. So expensive. So are you saying that people like this, if they have an idea that's viable, you can bring it to a university where they can help you with your R&D?
That's it. If they have
students get experience too.
Exactly. So there's a lot of work going on again in Meath. Gary's doing a lot of work with the Boyne Valley Innovation District. And oftentimes employers don't know where is the front door to the university or the Institute of Technology. So by contacting me, by contacting the Regional Skills Forum, I can make those links for them to whatever that skill need is, whether it's high-end, whether they're looking for somebody for research and development, or whether they're looking for somebody on their shop floor, and whether they're a large multinational company or whether they're just a small to medium enterprise. So the education training providers are looking out now to employers to ask, how can we help? And as a forum, we're looking to see, can we do that for individual employers, but also can we do it for the region, can we do it for the county, and can we do it for the region as well?
So I can see already you two are going to be very popular after this session. So everybody come up to these people. Conor Cogan, the bearded man is the name of your company.
Yes, indeed. you.
Tell us about it, please.
Yes, basically we're based here in the Meath Enterprise Centre in Navan, and we manufacture wooden home and giftware and corporate gifts. We sell to like the premium retailers across Ireland, and then
Please, everybody.
and we also partner up with breweries, distilleries, tourism, and we manufacture custom branded gifts for them, and also with our corporate partners. Yeah, we're pretty proudly based in here in Navan. We've gotten some great help from Meath Enterprise and also Local Enterprise Office, and Joe have been phenomenal as getting this off the ground. It kind of started as a very simple idea. I didn't have any clue about anything when I started, but it's
What's your background before you started?
I did my undergrad in science, and then when I was in school in Pats and Navan, we did mini business and stuff. But I started a guitar business where I made guitars and repaired them. And like definitely, I didn't make any money at it. I took in money, but it wasn't a profitable company. But I definitely learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, kind of learned off them. Did that the whole way through college, and then I took a year kind of out, and I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. And I started the business and a master's in design innovation in Maynooth at the same time. And then that kind of was a busy year, but it was good to it kind of kept me pushed at the bearded man and also into to get a lot more skills and kind of the language and how to do it, how to deal with people, and how to just gave a lot more skills to add to my skill set and stuff, which was pretty amazing.
So with a name like that, and as long as your company is in play, you can never get rid of the beard.
No, exactly. If the beard goes, the company's gone. So as long as I have it, we're still doing all right.
And how's business going? How many people do you have, and what kind of customers do you have then? Tell us about that.
So like we sell to like the kind of premium of the retailers. So a lot of the chains like the likes of Kenny and stuff. And we do like Ashford Castle. We've got like a lot of the touristy kind of spots they'd take, but we mainly aim for the premium side of things, like the higher end shops and that. We're really trying to do a push now come to Christmas. There's a couple of other chains we'd like to get into. What we've noticed kind of, and even talking to people in the industry, the summer was pretty hard on them. Like I know one of my shops in particular was down 64% on turnover across 3 months, which is huge and which is very difficult. So I'm really looking towards kind of different markets where instead of trying to target the usual, that everyone's going to try and find something else. So like we have a lot of partnerships with other companies that we're working on, a lot of kind of new kind of initiatives, online businesses. Like there's a crowd we'll be bringing some product now to pop-ups in London and New York and stuff through a huge international on the website and stuff, which allows it makes more money for us, but allows us to reach a wider audience. Like we manufacture everything in here in Navan, and we're really trying to buy our materials, add all the value here, and export them. That's what we really want to do is in the Irish market. From even being away and in other places, it is quite small, so we really want to try and export our product. And like people across the world love Irish-made stuff and love Ireland and love everything about us. So I'm just trying to play off of that and try and build it up from there.
Is it hard to open the door, knock the door, get into these larger retailers, as you said? What's that challenge like?
Yeah, it can be. Like most of them we've met through trade shows, but it's hard to get their attention. It's hard to.
What do you do?
Oh, I don't know. It's kind of like we put on a nice display and really try and I'd always ask around. People have been phenomenal, local businesses and also people all over Ireland have been great at kind of giving advice and all. That person over there that's their name from this shop, so kind of I can kind of know who they are and get geared up and kind of present in different ways to different people. I make sure I know their business and I can kind of sell to them exactly, not just sell the product, sell to them, and that's been pretty good for us. But then it's hard to command space in shops. We're still small. They're small products, a small range. So trying to command, like I have tiny shops in the middle of nowhere that sell a phenomenal amount of stuff, whereas other large stores in really busy places don't. But just about getting displays right and stuff is pretty difficult. That's why we're gearing more towards kind of the online and through select shops. Like we've got a fantastic shop in Dundrum now, a pop-up. It's 40 Irish and emerging designers. It's a phenomenal shop, it's beautiful, and it's literally the very best of all Irish-made products in one shop, and it's phenomenal, it's great. So that's really, that's the first of its kind ever in Ireland, which is a shame, but it's great to see it now, and it's great because it gives a lot more scope for what I do, and it's brilliant.
So going online is obviously a no-brainer because you get paid.
Yeah.
And are you going down the road that much? Are you pushing that way more and more? And how are you finding getting paid by the retailers?
It can be difficult. We've had a difficult year getting paid, and we've had a couple of jobs that really put us under a lot of pressure. Not quite over yet, but we're getting there. But that is difficult, and that's why when we export, you're paid before the order leaves. Yeah. You're paid sometimes on the day of the order. Now, we've certain retailers that are fantastic. They're unbelievable, and if they'll always look after us. And I'm pretty sure if I called them and said, "Listen, I'm really stuck. Can you give me something?" they would. But then sometimes, again, look, it's fair enough. They're in the business as well, and they're probably getting late payments from people. But it's hard to manage. Like I didn't, because the business grew pretty quickly. The back end of the business hasn't grown with it. So like the access to capital and stuff and everything hasn't been there. So that's what we're really working on now, and just kind of making sure everything works smoother and being able to follow up. If people don't pay me, follow up on them quickly and kind of make sure that they're happy and kind of work it that way.
Okay. And before I go to you, Keith, at the end, can I just reiterate again, please, there will be time for networking. There's lots of time for networking and chat after the panels, in between the panels, because there is more time given this year, so there's less panel discussions. So if I could ask you for your full attention, please, for the speakers. Thank you. Thank you. Keith Finglas, you're the innovation delivery. What is that? Tell us about it, please.
Well, I feel a bit of a fraud when it comes to innovation because my background is engineering and project management, and the reason I got into innovation was because we started looking at why projects were failing, and what we realized was the first 5-8% of any initiative is the most important. As I get older, it turns out that everything my mother said to me as a child was true. It's very irritating. So that the old Irish saying about too small that na hebra turns out to be exactly right. Because what we discovered was in those first few percents, it's where the group of people, and you don't need wonderful superheroes, you just need reasonably competent people. They can do amazing things, but they can do amazing things if they're given the time and they take the time to actually understand the context of what they're doing. If they understand who are they doing this for, what do they need, and what do they really need, because actually people are busy and they didn't really bother their behinds too much putting scope into it, because I kind of thought, well, you're the guy I'm paying, why don't you know it? But where that is done well, it has a huge impact on the rest of the project. The rest of the change, they tend to go much better. So we started looking and we discovered this stuff called design thinking. So the last 15 years, I've been dragged into now doing innovation, which sounds, it always annoys me because it sounds so odd, but basically we help people develop new strategies, or we help them develop new products or services. Increasingly, for organizations, I think there's kind of 3 orders of change I'm seeing. There's the day-to-day stuff where you're making your money. You can't afford hardly any risk there, so you just want stuff to be done and delivered and be paid as you would like. Yeah. The second order is you're making a capacity change, or you're making a small variation in what you're doing, and it's riskier than the day-to-day stuff, and you can isolate the risk from the day-to-day stuff, which is good, but it's still pretty close to where you are. The third order is where you're kind of going, I've got something new, but I'm missing half the skills. How would I go about it? But it looks good. How would I test it? So what we do is we work with multinational semi-states, and like just this summer we worked with a semi-state in the Midlands where we had a 9-week program where we had to go and source 6 grads with skills that weren't in the company, take 9 projects and run through them. We killed one pretty quickly, which is an unusually but very positive thing.
Why was that killed?
Because it wasn't appropriate, but you only find that out when you go into it. When you look at the picture, ideas are great. At first glance, anything can be positive, but you need to kind of tease through it a bit and then kind of go, okay, that wouldn't work for us. And that's actually a good result. As long as you're in that kind of third order where you found it out with just a little bit of effort and it didn't cost you anything. The big gap, I think for a lot of companies, they struggle with, I've got an idea, and they try to go to full production with no safety steps or no testing steps in between. So what we do is we help them do that.
So if I was to kick off this discussion, and we're talking about the challenges and opportunities facing regional enterprise development, and Keith, from your viewpoint as a consultant, and you're looking at how companies are working, I suppose top tips for companies like here. We Kevin Stewart from Meath County Council with us earlier on, and while there's a bit of a commute into Dublin, it's been acknowledged there's more and more companies, more and more opportunities being set up within the county. So Facebook and Shower coming here, and Helen McEntee says rising tide lifts all boats. So I suppose top tips for I suppose in the main with most of the SMEs here, and when they're setting up and when they're trying to scale, what are the main challenges you're seeing, and is there any tips you can give for them to get over them?
I think one of the things that often comes to me is people will say, we'd like to do some of that innovation stuff. And one of the real warning signs is when I talk to them and I find out that actually they're pretty poor at just managing normal projects. And the difficulty is if you're not really good at managing normal stuff, there's no way you're going to succeed at something like an innovation thing, because innovations are just weird projects. They're just projects that are more challenging. So if you're not good at normal change, you can have a perfectly good business, but you shouldn't be doing risky stuff out in the fringes because your track record isn't, you just know yourself you're not good.
So stick to what you're good at, is it?
I think a mixture. Know what you're good at.
Examples of where these companies are trying to do this change.
So I would say know what you're good at and excel at that. If there's something new, by all means have a look at it, but for God's sake, test it in a small way. And don't make a big leap on something that when you look back on it, you kind of go, yeah, it was pretty clear we were missing half of what we needed. Or better still, get someone else to help you test it. There's a lot of fine grads coming out from school, from colleges, and I was talking to one of the companies in Meath who have a very good grad program. And what they do is they get people in for the summer. They work with them. They've done they work with the college over the years, where the interns that come in, they can take their work into a final year project. But that company has hired 50% of all the grads they've ever had in as summer interns. And this is also coming out for companies as well. What they're realizing is, if even quite large companies, their success rate at retaining people that they interview and that they hire on the basis of an interview, it sucks. It's terrible. And you can talk to someone for an hour, you can get any kind of answer. But if you've had them working for you for 6 weeks, it's a bit hard to hide the fact that they can't get up in the morning, or they their energy levels are low, or they're lacking key skills. So if you give them a lousy summer job the year before, you might get something out of it, but you certainly get a great interview. It's a really good way to interview them as well.
But it's probably a thing that if you do bring in a graduate or even a summer intern, that you could probably give them a little project, a little bit of supervision to see, can that new product or can that new service, does it have wheels, could it potentially take off?
Yeah.
Because when they're gone, I mean, you're going to have to employ somebody in to run with that, and that's far more expensive.
Yeah, and you can do a good short test. The challenge that people sometimes make, that people make one of three mistakes, well, one of two actually. If you're looking at something new, you should be looking at technically what's involved and can I do it? How does it relate to where I am? From a business point of view, does it make sense? Do the costs match up, and what am I going to get for it? And then, will anyone want it? So the last one is a marketing question. Very frequently what I see is people do one of the three. So if it's a tech-oriented company, they check the tech, but they don't check the other two. If they're a business, they might check the business thing and they'll have 20 pages on the financial stuff, but they'll have nothing on the other two. And I haven't met any in the third space, because mostly they do the first two. So usually it's just they take an incomplete look, and they should be, companies should be reassured as well. I was talking to one multinational, and I was working with them to try and improve things, and they showed me their projects handbook, 270 pages on how to do things, which is great, except none of them were using it. And they even had a handbook on how to do those weirder innovation projects. And it had been written by a business grad, and it was like 120 or 170 pages were financial analysis. And it's way too early. The other thing people do is they do too much financial analysis way too early. If it's a very rough, raw idea, you can probably get about a page worth of decent financial analysis. After that, you're just making it up. Okay. And if you make it up, you'll get rubbish. And
Joe English, the Meath Local Enterprise Office, what are common mistakes when people are coming to you to look for grant aid or look for help? Do you see a common strain throughout where everybody's making the same mistake and it's quite obvious, except to them?
Yeah, a lot of issues around money. Companies, an awful lot of people when they're starting off in business don't recognise the dangers in cash flow. They think about profits and so forth, but cash flow is absolutely king for any particularly small startup companies. You can run out of money very, very quickly, even though, like you were saying, you got lots of orders, you have lots of stuff out there, but if the money is not coming in the door, you're in real trouble. And it's recognizing that and planning for that early in the cycle, and not coming in when you're in trouble. Trying to recognize the problem before it happens, and coming in and talking to us or other business advisors or your financiers, whoever it is, but coming and talking before you have trouble, because when you're in trouble, your chances of getting funding, either loan funding or grant funding, has been lessened. Because
do you see that? Do you see people coming to you out of desperation for a grant in order to keep things going?
Yes, we do see that. And we try to help as much as we can. There's lots of sources of funding out there. I mean, there's the banks, there's MFI, Microfinance Ireland on the loan side, there's ourselves, Enterprise Ireland, and the leader companies. There is a lot of funding out there, but the big thing to do is to come in and talk early so that we have a chance to be able to respond to your needs, because we can only put money into viable business, and if your business has become unviable because you're in debt or whatever, it's very, very difficult to get more money to put into it.
And is Meath a good place? Is it a friendly place to do business, rather opposed, we're close enough here to Blanchardstown now and all the western fringe of Dublin, Swords and these places. You know, why should people stay here as opposed to go in there?
Well, just last Saturday night down in Killarney, Retail Excellence Awards, Slane was voted the friendliest place to do business in the country. Because we're very keen to have people doing business. We're very keen to have people coming in. We love people coming in because we have this big neighbour called Dublin that seems to suck so much energy and oxygen out of the area. We're absolutely convinced that we need to spend more time and effort to convince people that it's a great place to live and work and to do business.
Yeah, and are you finding though that companies are they're getting sucked into Dublin, they feel they have to go there?
No, I mean, I suppose our motto is it's like Dublin, only better, you know, and you know, we're really promoting it as a place to live and to do business. And then we have a place like the Kells Tech Hub, which is an absolute brilliant place for people to come and do business and to work. And I would recommend to anybody in the room or anybody you know who is thinking of setting up to come and look at the Tech Hub. I mean, its location is perfect. The broadband that's available is amazing, and the facilities are as good as you will get anywhere. In fact, when it was being designed, Gary and the team, we went around every hub we could get into in the country to see what they were doing, and we said we need to make it better than anything that's out there. And I think everyone would agree what we have in Kells is an amazing facility for somebody setting up or looking to have a satellite maybe of their Dublin office.
And are there good examples of what you're seeing coming to you in time? Are the examples of the kind of companies that are coming to you, that they're doing the right thing at the right time, or what are they doing right?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of professionals. We're getting a lot of engineers coming into us. Keith mentioned he's an engineer. I'm one myself, so we can talk the same language to people. And we're finding a lot of engineers coming in looking to set up small manufacturing or high-tech manufacturing. And I'm absolutely delighted. In the last couple of years, I've seen more and more technology-based companies coming through the door.
Is that the future? That or food?
That and food.
And food.
And food. You know, we have to play to our strengths. I mean, there's an awful lot of people from County Meath who went to Maynooth University, the universities around Dublin, went to DKIT, maybe set up businesses, you know, around the campus. We're very, very happy for them to come back into Meath. And then we have the whole Food Innovation District project, which we're growing.
And Siobhan, you know, there is that lure of going into Dublin and trying to retain jobs, trying to retain a decent standard of living out here, keeping our social systems going, keeping all this famous sustainability thing going in the county. What kind of skills are you finding there are I suppose, are working for you guys here? What are the most popular ones? What ones do you think that you guys can train are not being used enough? Okay. Would you like to see more people going into your certain courses?
Well, I think just to pick up on what Joe was saying about the shared working spaces and this whole notion of the future of work, yes, and how people will work, how we can collaborate and work better in the future. And as well as having very important scientific skills and engineering skills, there's now more of an emphasis on having good soft skills and communication skills so that people work well in teams.
So such as now, for instance, you're going on soft skills, because I suppose that's an easy thing to try and teach, but we don't go for them.
It would be, so for people who are have fantastic expertise in what they do, whether that's engineering or science, so that they also develop their abilities to communicate their ideas simply in an understandable way.
So some presentation when you're meeting someone to sell, is that it?
Either that or just simply having a conversation with somebody. So if you have a complex product that you're able to explain to somebody what it does and how it benefits them. But also in the world of work, how people work together, how they create ideas together. It's interesting, Keith was referring to innovation and creativity. So if you have a group of highly skilled people working together, can they consciously explain what it is to each other and move that project along?
Is that a problem for Irish people or Meath people?
I don't think it's specifically a problem for Irish people. In fact, we're probably very good at that. But if you look at statistics coming out from Europe, the skills that are in demand now more from employers, those softer skills are moving higher up in the rankings. And it's not saying the other skills aren't important, but it's just this is more of a realisation or a recognition that there needs to be some soft skills along with the expertise as well.
Conor, you're probably trying to do everything from accounts to selling to marketing to operations to ordering, fulfillment, procurement, you name it. Is that frustrating? Is there places where you think you could be stronger yourself? And you know, what's the most challenging part of your business in the day-to-day stuff?
Most challenging part probably is that, as you said, it all falls to me, as in I don't have I'm trying to bring in more people to get help and advice, as in, because there's certain things I'm not good at, and I'm very aware now at this stage that I shouldn't be the one doing them, I'm not good at them, so I try and get other people to help out with them, because like I have my skills and I know what I'm good at certain things, but as in, it's too much to try and manage everything, because every day where I'm in the office or meeting customers, it's a lot harder, then nothing else gets done in the workshop. So now I've got people in the workshop, they're helping out, and I'm trying to just get a bit more I think my function would be better as a broader overview of it, really, as in I think rather than being involved in every single aspect, because it's too difficult to manage everything and keep track of everything, and at the minute, say, like every customer that I have knows me. When they call, they want to speak to me and stuff, and it's hard, especially when there could be a full week in the van driving around meeting different customers, and it's very worthwhile meeting them, and sometimes for big contracts it does take a lot of work. Sometimes we could be meeting now for something that's going to happen a year down the line, and it may never happen, but it's something that I still want to do, but then it means that other stuff suffers. So I'm at that stage now where it's become too much so I'm just trying to figure out how to get around that. That's my main issue, I suppose. It's just too much for one man to do at this stage.
Is it hard to find the right staff? Are they there?
I haven't really in terms of looking for staff. I'm lucky that when I was in I did my undergrad, the masters in Maynooth and stuff.
Yeah.
So that masters had a wide variety of people in age groups and backgrounds. So I do rely on a lot of them. Some of them have unbelievable experience in what they do, and they're all super helpful. I've done programs with the Enterprise Office and Meet Enterprise and the IBYE. I did a competition in Maynooth entrepreneurship. So then I do have people that I go to, and they're that's what they act as mentors. I can kind of ask them questions, and they'll give advice so that there's certain mistakes I haven't made that they have made, and that's great. So I'm making my own mistakes, but it's quicker to get to the end goal. So that's important. In the workshop, find people, it's actually very easy. I just got chatting to someone one day, and he recommended someone, and it worked out really well. They're really interested and keen. For what we do, the way I manufacture everything, no one needs to be necessarily an expert. It's a kind of we use a lot of jigs and fixtures and everything, so it's very safe. And once someone is semi-capable, they'll do very well. And the guy I'm working now he's super passionate. He's really involved in the business. He loves it, and he's he goes out and he promotes it to everyone as well, which is phenomenal. So that's worked really well. And then most of who we deal with, our customers are great as well. They will give help where they can, and they understand the constraints of being a small business and stuff. But then we're really vying for the larger orders now, and it's all well and good. Sometimes you could be working for a few weeks on a proposal for a big order, and then you'll go in, and that day, the morning you go in, and right, I'm going to present them to now, and then all of a sudden you're if I get this order, I can't actually afford to make it, or it's going to put this much pressure on it. It's it's the cart before the horse. What comes first? Do I try and I don't know, get a $100,000 overdraft to get a huge order? Do I get the order and then? So it's kind of it's trying to seize. And certain times we've done jobs, we've done samples of people and worked along, and it hasn't worked. They've not progressed, or it hasn't worked for them, whatever. And the other time it's gone really well. So it's kind of we're just trying to build a relationship so that we've got people that come to us on a regular basis and can rely on us. Sometimes people come to us with a problem and they're we need this, or we need something to this, and I provide the solution. That's great. Because other times people come with something super specific, and we have to kind of work to tease out all the ins and outs of it.
So who mentors you? I mean, you come to say a crossroads deal, which is a game changer for you, but you need funding and you need a certain amount of expertise, or who do you go to look for that piece of advice?
It varies really.
There's always a leap of faith in all these big decisions, isn't it?
100%. You're following your gut and everything, but then you're kind of I'm not that experienced, I'm still pretty young, whatever, so it's whether I made the right decision or not, and it can be stressful and everything. Then look, I absolutely love what I do, I love how we do it, and if someone else was doing this business, I would still love to see it doing, so that's kind of that's really important to me. I love manufacturing in Ireland. I love representing it. So as in, normally I will just go for it and I'll kind of figure it out afterwards, or I will we're at the stage now where now I can hold stock. So I have timber all sitting in a shed at home, so I know if I get an order. There's times where people, I'd be vying for an order for ages and a huge order come in, I'd ring up the supplier, I'm like, there's nothing in the country, it's on a boat on the way over from the States, and you're like, how can I deal with that? Like, whereas now we're kind of a bit better at managing, so we can deliver a lot quicker than we used to be able to. We used to have like long wait times, and it would like, even a shop would order to take a couple of weeks to get it because all the stuff we have in production is already gone to other people, whereas now we have a lot of stock ready to go, so it's about, now it was like, if I'm meeting someone and all of a sudden they say we're on 500 units, I'm like, grand, you'll have it next Thursday, and it works well in that sense, so we can provide it just quicker, but then obviously getting over the humps of credit and giving credit and non-payments is...
It sounds like you can adapt and bob and weave a lot at this stage. How long is it taking you now to get to this point where, because I'm sure you've been making a lot of mistakes, but you're making fewer and fewer, and less expensive ones too.
Yeah, and like we're realising we're like...
How long is it taking you to come to this stage?
We're about a year and a half, 2 years in business now, but it's in now, I don't always make the mistakes I realise before them. I'm kind of getting better at recognising, oh, this could be a mistake, or I just pull back a little bit, or kind of, you get better at learning, you understand kind of, first time PB's come up at my first ever trade show, I was like a week making these products. I did a trade show and people come up and everyone placed orders. I was like, happy days, I got loads of shops there, but half of them didn't order, like, as in, so now I'm better at recognising as in like, oh, like they're actually interested and they're involved. And if they are, if someone is interested and I feel it's worth it, I'll put everything into it. And generally it works, and we do some nice products, and they could be long term, but we have some nice stuff in the works now, and that's pretty exciting.
And then for the big stuff, I was asking you about a mentor. Do you have a chairman? Do you have an elder person, a senior person, or an elder lemon you can go to?
Not really, no. Like there's different people for different things. There's no one in particular. I suppose a lot of what I rely on is, I'm constantly in the workshop. I'm very involved in the business, so I think I know. Or for a long time, I thought I knew everything about it. Whereas now I rely a lot more on like the non-experts. Remember in college, people used to talk about that, it doesn't necessarily, an expert isn't always the best person doing something, bringing other people. So if I'm having trouble manufacturing something in the workshop and I can't figure out how to do this, I'll ask someone who has no clue about anything, and they might be like, why don't you just do it that way? And I'm like, I just couldn't see it because I'm just too involved in it. So I would always ask other people for advice, other businesses, completely different businesses. Like there's a few local crowds that have been phenomenal. And just like anyone that I can get talking to, I will literally I don't really hold back. I'll ask them questions, I'll go for it. I don't. If I want to know something, I'll do my very best, and I'll try and find out the information if I can.
Keith, the likes of Conor here, and I think there's probably a lot of SMEs out here and sole traders who are like Keith, or like Conor, trying to get on, looking to scale, cut down mistakes, get the funding, probably jack of all trades, master of none. The likes of these people, how would you advise them? I would say, just for instance, putting you on the spot slightly, but Conor here, is there any kind of advice you'd give him that might, I suppose, resonate with the people in the audience?
Frankly,
you're looking to scale really, aren't you?
No, because you're asking me to do it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I think the key thing for a small group of people is, can we make sure we don't repeat any mistakes? Can we have a look at new stuff? Can we try and get broader ideas? And Conor already called out the few different things that he's doing. Yeah. I think in terms of can we stop making repeat mistakes, I think just having 20 minutes each week where you say, okay, what did we do this week that we can do better next week? Just little moments like that. Like in construction, they call them toolbox talks, but they're the same type of thing. Just very short, kind of, can we improve on that? Second thing would be, can we capture stuff like that? So if you have a way of doing something, just make a few notes. I hate to use the word process because that sounds too heavy straight away. But if you just said, right, we'll one side of one page in big font, so it can't be too detailed. Just capture the things that we said we do, just like checklists. So it just starts to help people. And a way to really engage people is to say to them, look, this isn't mandatory. It's a memory aid, and we want to keep making sure that the memory aids are helping us. So if we put something in, if it finds it helps us, if we find we don't need it, we take it out. So light touch stuff that just helps you, and then visually on the walls. So if you have something beside a saw or something, you put it beside the saw. You don't have it in the folder that nobody's going to go and look at. So small light touch moments where you just try and pick things out. And people are pretty good, like reasonably well trained, competent, professional people. They want to do good stuff. If they make mistakes, it's usually because they haven't got the context or they can't see what's going on. So a short talk once a week about where are we going, what's important next. If you have to make a choice, think about it this way. What did we learn this week that we could do better next week? That's pretty simple. That's the essence of improving.
You mentioned process, and I've come across a lot of entrepreneurs and people who started startups and of scaling. I know of a great one at the moment, Philip Martin. He's got a company called Core Systems in Carrick-on-Shannon. And he comes from the multinational background. Oki Sheehy's down in Tralee, he's another tech company. They've all come from the multinationals, and they seem to, I think from what I've seen, the vast majority of them seem to succeed because of processes. They're trained, there's very, very, how would I say, strict processes they follow. The Americans seem to have cracked it very well that we could probably take on board. There's a process to get from A to B to C all the way up to...
I think you have to be careful about it, and I would quote that great 20th century of modern industrial theory, Muhammad Ali. You have to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. So there's times when you need to be able to go back and forth a few times and figure it out. And then there's times when you need to do it. And you need to know the difference. So if you're looking for a few ideas about something, you say, right, for the next 20 minutes we need a range of different ideas. That brings out some of the soft skills. And I'm always amused. There's certain categories of people that I think they'd like to burn me at the stake because when it comes to engineers, I tell them that, you know, soft skills are not an option. If two engineers can't actually communicate, it doesn't matter how good technically they individually are in their own heads, they have to be able to work together. And a lot of the multinationals, they see this. So people get training in collaboration and team building. They don't do it for the good of their souls. They do it because it makes a huge difference to the output of the project. So the ability to get on together, the ability to communicate, the ability to practice. I would say something about that there are, in that kind of floating like a butterfly space, there are techniques you can use, but I wouldn't put too strict a process on it. You need to, like if you want to come up with a good solution, you need to see, well, how much do I understand this? What's my understanding of the basic technical aspects? Is there some products or existing services I can have a look at? Are there some people I can talk to? So a 10-minute discussion with an expert will beat 200 hours in Google any day just to get a quick feel for it.
Okay.
Then you get some ideas, and then you have to test it. You prototype it in some way, do a small test and say, does that look right? Because physically doing it is quite different to thinking about it and talking about it, but just small little cycles. And then you did a test, you did it out of paper or something. You had a quick sketch, and then you realize, no, that won't work, it needs to be something else. So circling around that a few times before you say, right, now we know. But then when you know, you're going to do 500 of them, you have to be able to do the bill of materials, you have to have the roles and responsibilities, the cash flow has to be right. It gets a lot more serious once you commit. Before you commit, you've got that ambiguous, wonderful, it's an area that I think the Irish are particularly good at in terms of coming up with stuff. Post-commit gets pretty task-oriented, pretty process-oriented. You want that reliability of delivery.
Okay, so just to wrap up now, we're in the final few minutes of this particular session. If I could ask you all for your top tip or two that might be of benefit to people. Siobhan?
Just back to Joe was saying, don't leave it too late to come to get help if your cash flow is running out. I would say the same with your skills, that it is great news that Facebook and Shire and that there's all this development, but for established companies, they can be afraid of losing their staff to what look like the shinier new multinationals coming in. So I would say, in the same way Joe was saying, pay attention to your cash flow. I would say pay attention to the skills base that you already have and really look at what you have. And do you need help to upskill or reskill the staff that you have?
A kind of a continuous process, continuous development.
That's it.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on your talent and to make sure that that talent flows. To link in with the education and training providers because they are trying to reach out to you. We're at full employment now, so there is, like Joe was saying, there's funding there to help you. There's funding there to help you with your staff, with your existing staff. And there's a drive now in the nation really to upskill the staff that you already have. So link in with us and find out how we can help you. Can we help you with your training? Can we help you with student placements? So it's don't leave it too late. Pay attention to the skill base that you have. What's your current skills needs? What are your emerging skills needs? And reach out and see how we can help you.
And happy staff and educated staff, they stay with you?
Well, they certainly are more inclined to stay with you, yeah.
Joe, any words of wisdom for us?
Well, we're supposed
to plenty.
Yeah, we're supposed to be talking about challenges and opportunities. Yes. I would say look for the opportunity in any adversity, and I have a great example of it. And we can't we can't finish without talking about Brexit,
Yes.
right? And we've been getting, I've been getting beaten over the head by our masters in Enterprise Ireland that we have to be really working with our companies about Brexit, because most times when I talk to a company about Brexit, the eyes glaze over, you know. But I was in with a company the other day and we were talking about the business, and he was saying that 30% of their product is exported to Northern Ireland, and it's a food company. And I said, well, obviously you're very concerned about Brexit, and what are your plans for it? And he says, well, you know, yeah, of course I'm concerned. But actually, there's one company in Northern Ireland and they have 70% of the market down the south for what we're selling. That's what I'm focusing on. I'm not worrying about the 30, I'm trying to get his 70, because if there's problems on the border, it works both ways. So look for the opportunity.
Keith, yeah, there's opportunities. There's pivots there, isn't there? Thinking smartly.
I think sometimes startups pivot too much. It's easier to pivot than actually do some work sometimes. I think Conor called a few things. He said, you know, if you're in trouble, ask. Certainly ask around and ask as many people as you can. And I think the other side of it is having a go at it. Do it in a small way to test it. I think the third part is just around be comfortable that you're not going to know everything. That's fine. Just the better thing is to know what you're good at and lay off the stuff that you're not to someone else, to somehow get that support that you know where it is. I managed a huge number of projects and I'm terrible at finance, and I knew I'd be bad at finance. So eventually I fixed it. I just made sure that the first person I got for every project team was the finance person. So.
Okay. Conor, do you want to finish off by telling us how you're going to succeed and how these people can succeed along with you?
Well, I'm going to take the tips that I've just heard anyway, and just like, I think like something like this is good for me to get out of it, and just it kind of gets me more motivation to step outside of the workshop and get away from the machines and just kind of think about it. Like, I think definitely if anyone, like I know like the students and Pats and stuff are here, like I said, I would have done that when I was in school as well. I definitely think it's worthwhile to do that, and it's, if you have any ideas, definitely do take use of there's so many services available to you that are like even into the Leo and Meet Enterprise, and there's so many places that to get advice and help, and even just ask people, as in like, that's I think is the most important thing that I've done, and I probably don't do it as much now that I'm kind of 2 years in business, but I probably should go back to the drawing board a little bit and just ask people for advice and help. I think that's the most important thing. Like there's people who know far more than I ever will. So yes. and most of them are pretty open and we're happy to help. So I think that's the most important thing for me going forward. Is to try and, like, I think from January on we're doing a big show, and it's going to be a much more refined version of the business and a much more business savvy version of the business. I think is what we're gearing towards.
Really, Conor, it's really, it's like asking for the sale. You got to live, but you got to ask for help.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. You can't do everything. Yeah. Like, I think that's the most important thing, and that's something that definitely will try and do going forward. Is in and like work with there's other small businesses that we work with as well, and like if they're good at certain things, it's kind of a give and take type of thing, which works really well. And it's like so that's kind of more what I'll try and focus on, and just try and outsource what I'm not good at, basically.
Great. Before we wrap up, I just want to outline a few things for you now for the next couple.